The Awakening. The quantum sensors aboard the Helios research station had remained silent for 3 centuries. Dr. Elena Santos stood before the massive holographic display, her dark eyes fixed on the impossible readings flooding her screen. After 300 years of exile, after generations of silence, the void was speaking again. "Director Kane," she called, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "You need to see this." The station's director emerged from his office, his weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of the quantum field displays. At 78, William Kane had spent his entire career monitoring the darkness between stars, watching for the return of an enemy humanity had sacrificed everything to defeat. "Tell me I'm wrong," Elena whispered, stepping aside to let him see the readings. Kane's expression hardened as he studied the quantum fluctuations. The patterns were unmistakable, ripples in spacetime that shouldn't exist, couldn't exist. Not unless they had returned. "The void swarm," Kane breathed, the words heavy with centuries of dread. "Begin emergency protocols. Now." Within minutes, the station's quantum transmitters activated, breaking 300 years of self-imposed silence. The message was brief, encoded in frequencies that only Earth's deepest bunkers could receive: Protocol Omega. Confirmation code, Black Star Rising. 12 kilometers beneath the Pacific Ocean, in humanity's most secure military installation, General Sarah Chen shot awake as alarms blared through her quarters. She was moving before consciousness fully returned, muscle memory from decades of training taking over. "Status report," she barked, striding onto the command deck of Haven Deep, her uniform hastily donned but immaculate. "Quantum burst from Helios Station, General," Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez reported, his fingers dancing across holographic controls. "They've confirmed pattern Omega. The readings match historical records from the First Void War." Chen closed her eyes for a moment, remembering the histories, the reason humanity had retreated from galactic society. The quantum weapons they'd developed to fight the swarm had worked too well, had scared the other species too deeply. Humanity's exile hadn't been forced upon them, they'd chosen it, understanding the danger they represented. "Show me the stellar map," she ordered. The command center's ceiling transformed into a 3-dimensional star chart, focusing on the region where Helios had detected the disturbance. Red markers indicated the spread of quantum anomalies, forming a pattern that made Chen's blood run cold. "They're not just back," she muttered. "They're organizing. Lieutenant, get me a secure link to the Council of Earth. And contact the Helios station, I want to speak with Director Kane personally." As her crew rushed to comply, Chen studied the map with growing concern. The void swarm hadn't just appeared in one location, they were emerging across a dozen systems, all carefully chosen to avoid immediate detection by the galactic Concordat sensor networks. The quantum comm crackled to life, Director Kane's hologram materializing before her. Even through the flickering projection, Chen could see the strain on his face. "William," she greeted him, dropping formality. They'd known each other too long for titles. "How bad?" "Worse than the first time, Sarah," Kane replied, his voice tight. "The quantum signatures are more complex. They've evolved. Adapted. And the pattern of their emergence." He trailed off, manipulating data on his end. The map updated, showing probability curves and temporal distortions. "They're not just attacking randomly. They're following a strategy. These aren't the mindless entities we faced before. Something's controlling them." Chen felt a chill run down her spine. The First Void War had nearly destroyed the galaxy, and that was against a swarm acting on pure instinct. A coordinated attack. The implications were staggering. "The Concordat's defense networks won't detect them until it's too late," she said, thinking aloud. "Their quantum sensing technology is centuries behind ours. They'd abandoned it after seeing what our weapons could do. They'll be blind until the swarm is right on top of them," Kane agreed. "And without quantum-based defenses. They'll be defenseless," Chen finished. How long? At current spread patterns? 2 weeks, maybe 3, before the first civilian systems are hit. A month before the swarm reaches any major concordat worlds. The quantum comm chimed again. The Council of Earth was ready to receive her report. Chen straightened her uniform, preparing to deliver news that would end 3 centuries of isolation. Send me everything you have, she ordered Kane. Every scrap of data, every analysis. I'll need it to convince the Council. Kane nodded, his expression grim. Sarah, they'll resist. 300 years of isolation, of hiding our power, it won't be easy to change course now. Then I'll make them understand, Chen replied, her voice hard. Because if we don't act, if we don't reveal ourselves and everything we've developed since the exile, there won't be a galaxy left to save. As if to emphasize her words, new alerts flashed across the command center screens. More quantum disturbances, spreading faster than their models had predicted. The void swarm was accelerating. Chen took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders as the Council's seal appeared before her. 300 years ago, humanity had chosen exile to protect the galaxy from their power. Now, that same power might be the galaxy's only hope for survival. The Council members' holograms materialized, 11 of Earth's most powerful leaders looking at her expectantly. Chen began speaking without preamble, her words carrying the weight of centuries. Counselors, approximately 6 hours ago, our quantum detection network registered multiple pattern omega events. The void swarm has returned, and they're stronger than ever. I am formally requesting the activation of the Lazarus Protocol and the immediate termination of our exile status. The silence that followed was deafening. Chen continued, her voice steady. Everything we feared, everything we prepared for, it's happening now. And we're the only ones who can stop it. The quantum displays pulsed with new data, showing the swarm's expansion. In the darkness of Haven Deep, humanity's greatest warriors prepared to step back into the light. The question wasn't whether they would fight, it was whether the galaxy would survive what humanity had become in their absence. Far above, on the Helio station, Elena Santos watched the quantum readings with growing horror. The patterns were changing, evolving even as they watched. The void swarm wasn't just back, it was hunting. And its first targets were becoming clear. Director, she called, her voice barely a whisper. They're heading for the Concordat's core worlds. All of them. Simultaneously. Kane's response was lost in the sudden blare of alarms as new signatures appeared on their screens. The swarm was accelerating again, defying their projections, their understanding. The war humanity had hidden from for 3 centuries was coming. And this time, exile wouldn't be an option. In Haven Deep, General Chen ended her transmission to the Council, their authorization secured. As her officers rushed to implement the Lazarus Protocol, she allowed herself a moment of reflection. They had spent 300 years preparing for this moment, developing weapons and defenses the galaxy couldn't imagine. Now they would have to reveal it all, and hope the cure wouldn't prove worse than the disease. The quantum sensors continued their silent vigilance, watching as humanity's greatest nightmare returned to the stars. The time for hiding was over. The time for war had begun. The call to arms. The Galactic Concordat's Grand Chamber had never seemed so small. Ambassador Maya Patel stood before the assembled representatives of 500 species, her ceremonial Earth uniform standing out starkly against the sea of alien attire. 3 centuries of isolation had just ended with a single quantum transmission, and now she faced the impossible task of convincing the galaxy to trust humanity again. The void swarm has returned, she announced, her voice carrying across the stunned chamber. And it's already inside your borders. Chaos erupted. The Arcadian delegate, his crystalline form shimmering with agitation, rose first. Impossible. Our detection networks would have. Your detection networks are blind to quantum-level threats, Maya interrupted, triggering a holographic display. This is a real-time feed from our long-range sensors. The swarm is here, it's organized, and you have approximately 16 days before it reaches your first populated systems. In Haven Deep, General Chen watched the diplomatic broadcast while her crews prepared humanity's response. The massive underground facility had transformed into a war machine, awakening weapons and ships that had been waiting centuries for this moment. "Status report," she commanded, turning to her tactical officer. "Quantum Fleet is at 60% activation, General. The Lazarus Protocol is proceeding ahead of schedule." "But..." Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez hesitated. "Speak freely, Commander. The Concordat civilian channels are exploding with news of our return. It's not positive. They remember the First Void War. They remember what our weapons did." Chen nodded grimly. The quantum erasure of the Centauri system had saved the galaxy, but the sight of an entire star cluster being wiped from existence had traumatized a generation. It was why they'd gone into exile in the first place. Back in the Concordat chamber, Maya faced the growing storm of protests and fear. The Tyrillian ambassador, his feathered crest flared in agitation, spoke next. "You expect us to believe that humanity, after 3 centuries of silence, just happened to detect this threat? Why should we trust you? Your species nearly destroyed reality itself with your quantum weapons." Maya's response was measured, practiced. "We went into exile to protect you from our power. Now we're breaking that exile to save you from extinction. The Void Swarm isn't just stronger, it's intelligent now. Coordinated. Your conventional defenses won't stop it." She gestured, and new holograms filled the chamber. "These are feeds from the outer rim. The swarm is consuming entire systems, not just life but consciousness itself. Without quantum-based weapons, you can't even slow it down." In orbit above Earth, Director Kane and Dr. Santos watched as the first of humanity's hidden fleets emerged from subterranean hangars. The ships were beautiful in their deadliness, 3 centuries of advancement evident in every line. "They're afraid," Elena observed, watching the Concordat broadcast. "Not just of the swarm. Of us." Kane's response was interrupted by new alerts. The quantum sensors had detected something massive, a void swarm force larger than any they tracked, materializing at the edge of Concordat space. "Get me General Chen," he ordered. "Now." The news reached the Concordat chamber moments later. Maya watched as the color drained from alien faces as they saw the size of the threat. The Arcadian delegate's crystalline form had gone almost transparent with fear. "By the first light," he whispered. How do we fight that?" "You don't," Maya replied softly. "We do. But we need your cooperation. Your trust." In Haven Deep, Chen received Kane's transmission with growing concern. The swarm's patterns had changed again, becoming even more complex. More purposeful. "They're hurting the Concordat species," she realized, studying the tactical display. "Driving them toward specific systems. This isn't random, it's a strategy." "But why?" Kane asked. "The original swarm consumed everything it encountered. This level of coordination suggests intelligence," Chen finished. "Something's controlling them. Something that understands not just tactics, but psychology. They're not just attacking, they're terrorizing." Maya's voice came through their quantum link, tight with tension. "The Concordat is voting on our offer of assistance. But General, they're asking for oversight of our quantum weapons. They want restrictions." Chen closed her eyes, understanding the impossible position they were in. The galaxy feared human weapons almost as much as they feared the Void Swarm. But without full access to their arsenal. "Tell them no," she ordered. "We can't fight this war with one arm tied behind our back. The swarm is too strong, too organized. We need everything we have." In the Concordat chamber, Maya delivered the response. The reaction was immediate and hostile. The Tyrillian ambassador's feathers bristled with rage. So the truth emerges. You wish to force us to accept your dominance again. To watch helplessly as you unleash weapons that tear apart the fabric of space-time. Maya's patience finally broke. Look at your own sensors. The swarm is already inside your borders, moving faster than we predicted. You can waste time debating our motives, or you can let us save your worlds. Choose. As if to punctuate her words, emergency alerts began blaring throughout the chamber. The void swarm had just consumed its first Concordat observation post. The feeds showed only darkness where a station had been moments before, not destroyed, but erased from existence, along with the consciousness of every being aboard. The chamber fell silent. The Arcadian delegate rose slowly, his crystalline form pulsing with subdued light. We remember the First Void War, he said quietly. We remember the terror of your weapons. But we also remember that you used them to save us, knowing it would make you outcasts. Knowing the galaxy would fear you. He turned to the other delegates. I move to accept Earth's assistance, without restrictions. In Haven Deep, Chen watched as the vote passed. Within moments, coordination requests began flooding in from Concordat military commands. The galaxy was finally ready to fight beside humanity again. All ships, this is General Chen, she broadcast to the awakening fleet. Humanity's exile ends today. Our mission is clear, stop the void swarm at any cost. Show them why the galaxy once feared us, and why they'll thank us when this is done. As humanity's quantum ships moved into position, Elena Santos made a final check of the sensor data. Something about the swarm's pattern still bothered her, they were too perfect, too calculated. Director, she called to Kane. I think they wanted this. The swarm, whatever's controlling it, wanted humanity to come out of exile. Kane stared at the tactical displays, watching as the greatest fleet in human history prepared for war. The question is why, he murmured. What could be powerful enough to control the void swarm, and smart enough to manipulate us? The answer would come soon enough. The war for consciousness itself was about to begin, and humanity's long-hidden power would finally be unleashed again upon the stars. The hidden arsenal. The Arcadian shipyards had never seen anything like the human quantum engineers. Dr. Marcus Rivera watched as his team integrated 3 centuries of hidden human advancement into alien vessels, their movements precise and practiced. The crystalline ships of the Arcadian sparkled under the massive quantum cores being installed, beautiful, and soon to be deadly. Impossible, breathed senior engineer Tal, his crystalline form refracting light in patterns that suggested deep agitation. Your quantum technology, it's beyond anything we imagined. How did you advance so far in isolation? Marcus continued calibrating the core's dimensional stabilizers as he answered. We never stopped preparing. 300 years of focusing solely on defending against the swarm's return. When you're working with quantum mechanics, isolation just means fewer distractions. A sudden alert from his quantum tablet interrupted them. New data from Elena Santos at Helio Station, and it confirmed his worst fears. General Chen, he called through his quantum link. I need you to see this. Now. In Haven Deep's command center, Chen materialized as a hologram beside him. Her expression tightened as she reviewed the data. You're certain? She asked. The quantum signatures don't lie, Marcus replied, highlighting specific patterns in the data stream. The void swarm isn't just being controlled, it's been engineered. Someone took the original swarm and modified it at the quantum level. Made it smarter. Gave it purpose. Tal's crystalline form dimmed with horror. Who could do such a thing? Who would want to? Before anyone could respond, new alerts flooded their displays. The void swarm had just changed course, abandoning its attack on civilian targets to strike directly at a specific system. The Nexus archives, Tal whispered. They're attacking the archives. Chen's hologram straightened. What's stored there? Everything, the Arcadian engineer replied. The combined knowledge of every concordat species. Including all our research on human quantum technology from before your exile. Marcus felt his blood run cold as the pieces clicked into place. They're not trying to destroy it, he realized. They're trying to access it. General, the swarm, it doesn't just consume consciousness anymore. It absorbs information. Knowledge. In orbit above Earth, Elena Santos reached the same conclusion. She rushed into Kane's office, her tablet displaying the latest sensor data. Director, look at the quantum interference patterns around the swarm entities. They're not random, they're encoding data. Massive amounts of it. The swarm isn't just a weapon anymore, it's a quantum computer. Kane's face went pale. And if it gets access to the Nexus archives, to our old quantum research, it could evolve beyond anything we can stop, Elena finished. The revelation sparked a frenzy of activity across human space. In Haven Deep, Chen mobilized the quantum fleet for an emergency deployment. In the Arcadian shipyards, Marcus and his team abandoned their careful integration work for emergency combat preparations. How many ships are ready? Chen demanded. 17, Marcus reported. Maybe 20 if we rush the final calibrations. But General, even with our quantum cores, they won't be at full combat effectiveness. They'll have to be enough. Chen turned to address the combined human Concordat fleet commanders. The Void Swarm must not reach the Nexus archives. Whatever's controlling it, whatever engineered it, they want our quantum research. We stop them here. As the fleet prepared for emergency transit, Marcus made a final check of the quantum cores. The technology they developed in exile was incredible, but something still bothered him about the situation. Tal, he called to the Arcadian engineer. Who had access to the quantum research stored in the archives? After we went into exile, who maintained that data? The crystalline alien's response was interrupted by a massive quantum surge. Every sensor in the shipyard flared with warnings as space itself seemed to twist. Multiple quantum ruptures. Elena's voice cut through their communications. Massive void swarm forces emerging, impossible. These readings. Marcus stared at his displays in horror. The swarm entities weren't just larger or more numerous, they were different. Advanced. As if they'd already accessed the knowledge they were supposedly seeking. General, he called, his voice tight. I don't think they're going to the archives to learn about our quantum technology. I think they're going there to complete something they already started. In Haven Deep, Chen watched as the new swarm entities demonstrated capabilities that should have been impossible. They weren't just absorbing consciousness anymore, they were rewriting the quantum structure of space itself. All ships, combat positions, she ordered. This isn't just about saving the archives anymore. Whatever the swarm has become, whatever it's trying to accomplish, we end it here. The quantum fleet moved into formation, human and alien ships side by side. 3 centuries of hidden human advancement was about to face its greatest test. In his lab aboard the Arcadian shipyard, Marcus made a final, desperate analysis of the swarm's quantum signatures. There was something familiar about them, something that nagged at his scientific instincts. Elena, he called through the quantum link. Compare these patterns to our earliest quantum weapon tests. The ones from before the exile. Her sharp intake of breath told him she'd seen it too. Marcus, these patterns. They're based on human quantum technology. Whoever engineered the swarm, they didn't just study our research. They're using our own weapons against us. The revelation hit like a physical blow. The enemy they'd spent 3 centuries preparing to fight hadn't just evolved, it had stolen their own advancements and twisted them into something horrific. As the fleet engaged the enhanced swarm entities, Marcus and his team raced to modify their quantum cores. They had minutes, maybe less, to find a way to counter weapons based on their own technology. Tal, he called to the Arcadian engineer. I need everything you have on the original Void Swarm. Not our weapons against them, the swarm itself. Whatever engineered them had our quantum technology, but the base consciousness absorption ability, that came from somewhere else. The crystalline alien's response was cut off by the first shots of the battle. Through the shipyard's massive windows, they watched as humanity's quantum weapons met their darkly evolved mirror images. The war had just become something none of them had prepared for. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, whatever had engineered this new threat was watching, waiting to see if humanity's hidden arsenal would be enough to stop what it had created. The first strike. Space fractured as the first quantum weapons discharged. Commander Aisha Patel watched from the bridge of the HQS Prometheus as reality itself seemed to tear where human weapons met their twisted reflections. The enhanced void swarm moved with terrible purpose, each entity displaying an understanding of quantum warfare that should have been impossible. Multiple breaches in Defensive Line 7, her tactical officer reported, voice steady despite the chaos. The swarm entities are adapting to our attack patterns faster than predicted. They would, Aisha muttered. They're using our own technology against us. She opened a channel to Haven Deep. General Chen, we need options. These entities aren't just absorbing our attacks, they're learning from them. Through the quantum link, Marcus Rivera's voice cut in. Commander, we've identified a weakness. The swarm entities are using human quantum tech, but their base consciousness absorption ability is still alien. If we can overload that original system. An explosion of light interrupted him as 3 Concordat ships vanished, their crew's consciousness absorbed into the endless void. The swarm wasn't just destroying, it was consuming, growing stronger with each victory. Whatever we're going to do, Aisha responded, we need to do it now. We're losing ships faster than we can adapt. In the Arcadian shipyards, Marcus and Tal worked frantically to modify their quantum cores. The crystalline engineers' form pulsed with rapid calculations as they raced against time. The original swarm operated on a different quantum frequency, Tal explained, manipulating complex holographic models. If we can force them back to that base state, we can negate their stolen human technology, Marcus finished. But we'd need to hit them all simultaneously. A quantum cascade across the entire battlefield. Elena's voice joined the discussion from Helios Station. The quantum sensors are picking up something else. The swarm entities, they're not just fighting. They're building something. Some kind of structure in quantum space. On the Prometheus, Aisha watched as the battle shifted. The swarm's movements weren't random. They were creating a pattern, a massive geometric shape formed by their positions in space. General, she called to Chen. They're not trying to break through to the archives. This is something else. Something bigger. In Haven Deep, Chen studied the tactical displays with growing horror. The pattern the swarm was creating, she'd seen it before. In the oldest quantum research files, from before the exile. It's a quantum resonance array, she breathed. They're trying to create a stable quantum field large enough to rewrite the fundamental laws of consciousness itself. Marcus's voice shook as he realized the implications. If they succeed, they won't need to absorb consciousness one ship at a time. They could convert entire sectors of space instantly. Turn reality itself into a quantum computer under their control. How long? Chen demanded. At their current rate of construction? 20 minutes. Maybe less. Aisha took command. All ships, new formation. Priority targets are the swarm entities forming the array vertices. Marcus, Tal, we need that quantum cascade now. The battle shifted as the combined fleet moved to disrupt the swarm's pattern. Human quantum weapons clashed with their dark mirrors, while Concordat ships provided supporting fire with their newly upgraded weapons. In the shipyards, Marcus and Tal had achieved a breakthrough. The cascade will work, Marcus reported, but there's a catch. We'll need to synchronize it through a central point. A quantum focal node powerful enough to handle the feedback. The Prometheus can serve as the focal point, Aisha volunteered. We have the strongest quantum core in the fleet. Commander, Chen cut in, the feedback could destroy your ship. The energy requirements are necessary, Aisha finished. We all knew the risks when we came out of exile. Marcus, send me the modifications. Tal, I need every scrap of data you have on the original swarm's quantum frequency. As they worked, Elena made another discovery. The quantum structure they're building, it's not just similar to our old research. It's an exact match to a theoretical weapon we designed but never built. Something that could have won the first Void War instantly. Why didn't we build it? Aisha asked, even as her crew prepared for the cascade. Because it would have done exactly what they're trying to do now, Chen replied grimly. Rewrite the fundamental nature of consciousness. We chose exile instead of unleashing that level of power. The Prometheus shuddered as its quantum core accepted the modifications. Around them, the swarm's array was nearly complete. Reality itself seemed to bend around the massive pattern they'd created in space. Cascade ready, Marcus reported. But Commander, the feedback will be massive. Your shields will hold as long as they need to, Aisha interrupted. All ships, final positions. On my mark, channel all quantum energy through the Prometheus. We're going to remind these things why humanity's power was feared across the galaxy. The moment stretched as every ship moved into position. The Void Swarm, sensing the threat, increased their attacks. More ships vanished into the void, their crew's consciousness absorbed into the growing darkness. Now, Aisha ordered. The quantum cascade began. Energy poured through the Prometheus, its enhanced core channeling power that could tear reality apart. The ship's structure groaned under forces it was never meant to contain. Quantum frequency locked, Tal reported. Targeting the swarm's base consciousness matrix. The cascade reached its peak. For a moment, space itself seemed to hold its breath. Then, reality exploded. The Prometheus became the center of a quantum storm that rewrote the laws of physics across an entire sector. The Void Swarm entities screamed in frequencies that shouldn't exist as their stolen human technology was stripped away, forcing them back to their original, vulnerable state. Through it all, Aisha held her ship steady, even as systems failed and hull plates buckled. The Prometheus was humanity's focal point, their statement to the galaxy. This was the power they had hidden, the responsibility they had shouldered in exile. But as the cascade completed and the swarm entities began to fall, Elena made one final, terrible discovery. The quantum readings, she called urgently. The intelligence controlling the swarm, it's not just using our old research. It's using quantum signatures I've only seen in one place. Where? Chen demanded. Elena's voice was barely a whisper. In our most secure facilities. In projects we developed during the exile. Someone didn't just steal our old research, they've been watching us. Learning from us. For 300 years. The revelation hung in space as the battle's survivors regrouped. They had won this fight, but the true enemy remained hidden. And somewhere in the darkness, that enemy was learning, adapting, preparing for the next phase of a plan 3 centuries in the making.